fight
Yeah,
fans.
you're
Welcome
right.
back to Carl Prusa MMA. I'm Carl Prusa. Today I'm with BKFC fighter Mr. Van Tactic Vo. Van, looks like you're over in California, Malibu. You're hanging out with like the rich and famous right now on some looks like a cliff over the ocean. You're fighting this Friday in Temecula, California. Got a big fight back, fourth fight in the BKFC. You're taking on Danny Pettit. What's this been like for you out in Cali? I know I saw you this past weekend. You've been out there for a few days now. Got there nice and early. How are you enjoying it?
Man, this is definitely a dream. I mean, obviously, my fight career definitely wasn't like this. Had to work up for this, creating my own business and doing that. My wife and I working real hard these 21 years that we've been together to kind of slowly build it along with our 4 kids. So getting out here is definitely a dream. Um, and seeing all these places was just totally not planned. Us in Malibu right now is a complete freak accident. We didn't have this planned. We didn't plan this until we just left Santa Barbara. We didn't know we were really fully when we were going to be in Santa Barbara till Friday when they changed one of my medicals to Monday.
Going with the flow, man.
We're just going with the flow, exactly, and getting ourselves to just really enjoy and absorb all the energy that's coming in around us. That we've really got to be by just so many good people out here. Got to train at some new places and really just collect myself, which has never been able to happen to me before a fight. So this is feeling really free for this one. And feel free to walk through that door when I get out there and
save
show
that
everyone
shit.
who I
Save that
am.
shit for the fucking interview, dude. Save
It's
that
the interview.
Oh, my bad. I'm an asshole.
Here, I got Joshua Weems with me, of course. Joshua Weems,
Game bred fighter Josh Weems in the background. Looks like he's causing a bit of a ruckus here.
Always.
Always. So again, another person adding great energy to this trip. Josh actually helped. He came out 6 weeks ago to Ohio and trained with me for a week out there, just helping me at my house and us getting ourselves in the same order. Of course, I fought Joshua 4 years ago. We fought in our first bare knuckle fight against each other. Actually, my other corner is Warren Stewart, which was my third pro fight. He'll be flying out from Austin. He'll be here tomorrow. So I've got two guys in my corner that I've fought in the past that have become my best friends, and I talk about this often with people. Man, to me, it's almost like we're all like the Street Fighter characters or Tekken characters or however you want to take it in the fight games, but we all are just looking for that next best fight with whoever, and if they are a good, respectful individual, we kind of learn from them. We grow from each other, and that's why that competition with each other is important. But friendship in that as well is just going to make our communities grow faster. And we all know like the fight community is something that's taken a long time to kind of build up. I feel in our country to be accepted as like a motivational position versus like barbarians.
You know, you've been at this sport for a very long time. Obviously, in current days, you've been doing the BKFC, the bare knuckle stuff. But I mean, you have been involved in competition for well over a decade, into the early mid 2000s. How
Yes,
did
sir.
you just decide that, I want to be a professional fighter?
Well, so when I did my amateurs in Ohio, I did a couple. Ohio didn't have sanctioning back then for when I fought. But then I moved to Texas. My wife and I found out we were having our first kid, and I kind of made a decision like dead or in jail or for my kid or go to Texas and try to figure ourselves out. So that's what we did for 5 years. When I got to Texas, though, it was pro or no. They didn't come out with an amateur sanctioning league or amateur fighting at all in Texas until that year that I was there. But I missed like that window. So it was pro or no kind of. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll do it. And I was the first fighter out of my gym. So it was just kind of like I've ran into a lot of really good fighters because I just jump in there and fight anyone. But I had a lot of things happen in the beginning of my fight career that kind of didn't allow me to focus like I should have. I've lost a couple really good friends in the beginning of my fight career. One of my original training partners, and I went haywire after that. Plus, and my wife and I, we had 4 kids. So, but the discipline of martial arts and fighting, the competition kept me disciplined for myself to keep myself in shape, keep myself right. And I feel like I needed to do that to be a good example for my kids, so my kids can hopefully follow in the same. Which all four of my kids wrestle. My oldest is actually going to be going to Fargo, North Dakota. The night that I fight, he'd be leaving for Fargo, North Dakota for the national wrestling tournaments because he made the Ohio national wrestling team, which is again just a crazy thing, but it's awesome. So martial arts, fighting has been like a derivative of my life. If didn't have that in it, I'm not really sure what I identify as.
It's crazy to think that you started at a time where MMA was still labeled as human cockfighting. I mean, so
Yeah,
many people
absolutely.
right now it is so culturally accepted. Back then, man, it was the wild, wild west, and I have a feeling you have a bunch of these. But do you have any crazy fighting horror stories of
Hold
maybe
on, say that one again. I'm sorry.
do you have any crazy fighting horror stories back in the day of maybe your early fights where it was unsafe fighting conditions, mystery opponents, bad medicals? Do you have anything?
Oh man, I could. There's a lot of that. I mean, one of the funnest ones. I think about is I tell a lot of people it's my second amateur fight. I show up to basically a barn in the middle of this little city, uh, and they just had a bull show, like a bull riding show prior to the fights. So they're cleaning up the ground. So I make a joke all the time that they used to clean up the bullshit right before they put the cage down for us to fight. Uh, but that's what it was then, was finding a spot that was affordable enough to put this up, because it's not like there's a ton of tickets being sold. There was everyone's still building the business side of being able to put on fights, and then you have the states, each state jumping in, sanctioning it however they want to sanction it. So there's no like national standard on it or anything, so each state's kind of pick their way of doing it. So it's a it was funky back then, right? So I mean, I've had a training partner of mine. We were in Louisiana for a fight, and when he's wrapped up, we're getting ready. 3 fights have already happened, but I think they called him in to be like a setup guy. So but when he showed up with the full team and he showed up completely ready, I don't like to say that people were swindling or doing anything crazy, but all suddenly something happened where they say his blood work was no good, and we're already 3 fights into the fight card, and then they had to make us leave, which is just it blew my mind. But that's sometimes how some records are protected in this game. Uh, that was quite a few years ago. I mean, that was probably 2013 or so when that occurred. Um, but it's all a growing experience. But Bruce Lee said back in the 70s, in 30 years, martial arts would be everywhere. Now we're talking 50 years ahead of that. Now it is truly everywhere. 30 years, 20 years ago, it was because of, Southeastern Asia. You had Pride, now One, we have Ryzen. So it was growing, growing, growing. But now that it's getting precedent here, it's getting even bigger. Now that bare knuckle is legal here, bare knuckle fighting, let's be more specific, not bare knuckle boxing, different rule set. But bare knuckle fighting is now in all these other countries, Bulgaria, it's going to Japan, it's in UK, we're talking Canada, down in Mexico. It's unbelievable how quick bare knuckles blowing up. But it kind of is an exciting sport, and you really have true warriors in bare knuckle, because getting hit with a bare knuckle is not for everyone.
When you first got into this, did you have a feeling that it would blow up, the sport would blow up to what it is today?
Yeah, I've been trying since BKFC won, and I did their first tryouts. Like, I knew it was going to be big here. David Feldman, his faith in what he's doing with it is um, awesome to see, because he's just kept going, even though people told him like this is not going to pan out, it's not going to work. But I watched the different things that he's been doing with things, and it makes a lot of sense with how he's played it out to be able to build it up big enough for fighters to be able to get paid. Maybe not the greatest, but good. better than what smaller MMA shows pay, so that way they can build themselves up and actually build something out of it, which is what's kind of happened for me. I've been able to, I mean, even with losses on my record, they know I come out to fight. Like I'm not there for a quick walkover, or I mean, I'm there. If I get hit, it's just gonna turn into a war. Like it doesn't matter who I fight. I'm gonna fight the best that they serve up or anything like that. But the aspect of the bare knuckle game is now uh, widening up because of the betting world. You get what I'm saying? The betting world is just it's so much more exciting and bare knuckle in the betting world than it is, having to bet on if the guy's going to get submitted in the third, or how many minutes, or how long with this guy going to go with that. But bare knuckle fighting, you just got hands flying at each other. So I feel that's helped the sport grow really fast in the betting world. And that's why now it's going to be not a takeover, but it's its own entity that's going to create a huge following of different type of fans. Not that they're not going to cross fan, like be fans of MMA and many other things, but like there's some people that I know that I've met that are like, I never watched fighting before, but man, BKFC, like I love watching that now. Like they don't even go to watch much else because they're excited to just see. I mean, whether it's a guy that doesn't belong in there or guys that do belong in there or not, it's an exciting fight. Like somebody's getting knocked out or somebody's getting cut, or it's exciting.
What were the reactions like when you told people that you're going to try the bare knuckle thing out?
Oh, everyone thinks I'm crazy. Like our friend here in Santa Barbara that is the black belt instructor at Transition Jiu Jitsu there. We're talking to him, but he also does extreme like BMXing. Like he jumps off of roofs to walls and does all this crazy stuff and like hammers the ground. I'm like, dude, how do you do that? Like I'd be broken if I did that. Like I'd rather go in and bare knuckle fight any day of the week. I mean, it's safer. Honestly, 2-minute rounds, like you can't really lose with that when you've been fighting 5-minute rounds your whole life. Like, wait, I'm gonna get in there 2 minutes and throw down. But again, it's 2 minutes of just hands, 2 minutes of being able to boom, boom, boom. But if these get hurt or broken, what else you got? This is it. So learning to, like for me, my first fight, I broke this knuckle right here, right on Joshua's forehead. That's standing right over here. He shattered it in 6 pieces. We shattered it. I threw it at him. He put his head down very smartly.
Headbutting technique.
Headbutting. So bare knuckle. That's another fun thing. You know what I mean? Like there's so much in bare knuckle that hasn't really been touched on yet, from being able to block with your forehead. It sounds crazy, but there's methods in that. I'm not saying it's the best, but
Nope.
I've known people have done it. Learning to shield right with your elbow in the right spot. If he punches your elbow, like is it going to hurt you or him? I don't fully know yet. There's a lot that's being worked on as I've been going from fight to fight, along with other bare knuckle fighters that I talk to. We have conversations and we talk about different tactics and techniques that we've practiced and worked. And it's interesting because again, you can grab with the one hand and hit with the other. You can do a collar tie and boom, boom, boom. But yeah, fun times. I kind of lost myself there. Apologize.
I've talked to Williams about this multiple times, but a lot of people watch the sport. A lot of people love it. A lot of people watch the UFC, but I think there's a disconnect with a lot of the casuals and what actually happens here. When you're at where you're at, where you're obviously, you're BKFC, you're in a big show, but you're not making millions of dollars to fight. You have side businesses, you have kids that
Yes, sir.
do sport, you're doing all this extra stuff and finding the time just to train. I mean, you're out in California, your kids and your wife, they're back home in Ohio right now. What
Yes, sir.
motivates you to make all these sacrifices it takes to live out your dream and be a professional fighter?
Because I want my kids to know that they themselves can do whatever it is in their dreams to go on. Fortunately, we live in a time of technology where I can FaceTime them. I can see them. They can see me. but I get to bring back an energy and experience with me from here. And, the happier dad is, the happier my kids will be because I do happier things for them, the same with my wife and vice versa. So just being able to keep myself in it. But then, like I said, all four of my kids wrestle. I help with the youth wrestling program as well. Um, them being in that, we get that time we share together. For a long time, I taught on Sundays. I taught a lot of families all at once that bring kids, moms, dads all together at the same time, teaching my Voki Taito method, which is just all the martial arts I've taken that I help people figure out for themselves how they fight, trying to teach someone how they fight like them, not fight like me is my big thing on that. But I did it with I
Super motivated.
super what?
No, I just reminded you to get back to the super motivated.
Oh, yeah. So, and with all my kids, doing these things with me, it's like a self, it motivates me back. So, my kids, like they write me letters. They're in my suitcase. My wife writes me letters. They got pictures drawn. We work on this as a family on how to be better together. And I say that because I've had, my career obviously is where it's at. I've used a lot of things that have happened in my past that I feel hold me back. So fighting has always made me progress to be a better person, which has made me better for my kids. And then, like I said, that's what keeps me motivated is knowing like they appreciate me doing this because they see the growth in their dad, and know that that's what I want to see in them as well. Which again, bring up my son going to Fargo. That was a goal of his 3 years ago. He's achieved it. But he's listened to me talk about getting to BKFC now for over 4 years. Like they started back in 2018. So, 6 years ago is when I first saw it and I started talking about it. And then I finally took action in, I don't know, 2019, 2020. I can't remember when the Philadelphia tryout was, but I went and did that. And then kind of progressed. So my son, watching him do that is a motivation to realize like I got to keep doing the same things so they can do the same. We get our time together and we make it great when we're together. But I also want my kids to realize that they can be great and do great things when they're by themselves as well.
Do you think that MMA and combat sports saved your life?
Oh, 100%. I don't even say it, and then you get me emotional on it. But yeah, the discipline, the self-discipline. Um, I didn't have very many people discipline over me. And I kind of take it back. At a certain point, over discipline, there's all the wrong ways to discipline, not true discipline. So as I got older, I had to learn to do that for myself. Moved out when I was 16, had to learn to pay bills and try to go to school and all the other fun things. My wife and I come from a lot of the same background to have to work hard for where we're at. So it is, um, it's a way of life for us. My wife and I have been together 21 years. More than half of our lives together have been doing martial arts because I've been doing martial arts the entire time. I did my first ultimate tough man cage. Well, my first ultimate tough man cage match was my first MMA cage match ever in Dayton. And she's been here since then. And I want to say she's actually been there before that. But that's what's made, um, you know, again, me still be alive. I said earlier, if I didn't go to Texas when I did, I probably would have been dead or in jail. I have stories upon stories that can go into that, but I had a different temperament then. Um, and sometimes that temperament needs to be self-discipline controlled and martial arts and hitting bags and hitting speed bags and then learning how to do jiu-jitsu and judo and Muay Thai and everything, starting to combine it together, then all the mixed martial arts, it gave me such a focus and such a self-discipline that I was able to create, my wife and I create 4 kids and keep them going and them achieving what they're doing. And, back here on the BKFC stage in 21 years of fighting is, I haven't made a ton. Like I said, I just now makes enough to kind of, with BKFC to be able to do, plan my jobs appropriately and have enough to pay at least a couple months worth of bills versus, when you're doing regional fights, it's very minimal and you have a lot of sponsors and stuff you need, but smaller regional fights, harder to get sponsorships because you're not able to market them the same. Again, it's a touchy game trying to figure it all out when you kind of come from the very beginning, and it's hard to say, but I really haven't been a spoon-fed fighter. Sponsor myself for this trip, my company. I work my butt off to make the money to make sure I have enough to do what we got to in this trip. But again, we've been blessed with friends to stay with and things like that have made the trip so much better.
Now, you mentioned a little earlier, you coach families, you coach kids, you coach your kids. Is that kind of your way of giving back to the sport that did so much for you?
Yes, that's how I thought about it then. But I mean, I'm under some new understandings. Like since the pandemic, I haven't got to coach as much since the pandemic. It almost kind of dwindled it down. But I got to focus a lot on getting my skills up because when you coach, you're adding skills, but you're not getting the same fighter skills. So I got to really start focusing more on that, which is kind of where I feel I've been able to get better each bare knuckle fight and really show them that I belong here. So now being able to get out here to Cali for this has been, just a tremendous step up from what I had to do before. And go ahead.
You mentioned a little earlier that you have your side businesses. I think you have a clothing business that you and your wife do. You
Yes, sir.
do other forms of income. As a fighter, obviously, more than anyone, you have a short window to do this. You can only do this for so long. 40 years old, still going strong, obviously, still doing the BKFC.
Yeah,
But
thank you.
how important do you think it is for yourself and the other fighters to maybe think about how can I generate some income that's not fighting based?
Yeah, and then on that, like I tell a lot of people, and especially newer fighters, you got to be an awesome entrepreneur. You got to find out what you're good at, and you got to find a way to make money in all avenues. Again, like I do home improvements, I fix houses, I do bathrooms, kitchens, floors. But what I'm able to do is work that schedule to work with my fighting now. I worked for a decade for somebody else, making them hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars to do the same thing, but I got worked 12 hours days up until my fights. So like I was pretty much taxed before I got to it because they were worried that I was going to be hurt after the fight. So they want me to do all this extra work. And then at the end, I'm not. So now having that control of my time because I just realized like my talents are worth something. Whereas prior, I guess I don't think I valued myself enough, which leaves a lot of things left to be gained, right? So then the clothing line, we create the Tactic brand, which normally I have Tactic on everywhere, which I kind of do. Let's see, I got the Tactic fight shorts on. I've got Tactic tank tops and different things like that, but to create a little extra here and there. Then it comes down to also if you're fighting, you're getting sponsors on board. So I take usually sponsors' money. I make fight shirts, and then I put the sponsor logos on the fight shirts as part of it, and then we resell the fight shirts to make a little bit more out of that sponsorship money. So just every step that we can make a little something, we do. My wife does custom clothing, so she makes like tailor fitted anything. She's not cheap because she's good. She makes things perfectly fit. It's always unique, um, cool things, but that way we can, like you're saying, make these little bits everywhere. We can make these little bits everywhere to survive, and like you've talked to Joshua, he runs a painting business. He works his butt off to do that, so that way he can fight and he gets sponsorships at the same time, working all alleys in one. So, like you were saying, my wife and I have basically three businesses, three LLCs: Van Tactic Vo, the fighter. We have Tactics Renovations, which is the home improvements, and then we have Vo Apparel Pros, which is our apparel line, and also my wife's custom clothing line, which um, we've been building together for years, just slow steps, because again, when you don't have a ton of help, you got to keep going. A lot of times you have hiccups, you have things that set you back a little, that then you got to get back on track and go forward again. Takes a little longer, but as long as there's a lot of faith and a lot of trust, and really the process of what we're able to do, and again, we said knowing my worth has really helped me a lot. And I don't want that to come out like, in a conceited way or anything, but just knowing what I'm good at, and I've finally gotten there to realize that. So when I do a bathroom or I'm out in the middle of a fight, like, people realize I've done my homework, I've done my work, I do my stretches, I do my workouts. Again, 40 years old, I did the medical test where you got to run on the treadmill and they're checking your heart. And the lady got to a point when I was on the treadmill, she's like, "I'm so sorry to do this to you, but I have to speed it up even faster to get your heart rate up, because your heart is doing so good. I can't get you to end the test until your heart hits this height," or what, I'm trying to think of the word she used, reaches this number. So she had to increase it to get me almost to a full on sprint for a certain amount of time. But that's, again, trying to stay healthy for it all. Um, Martial arts has made me this way. I wouldn't be this way if I wasn't training to fight. I know that for sure.
So we're just a few days away from the contest now. You're taking on Danny Pettit. You make your return to the BKFC stage, looking for your first BKFC win here. Overall, what do you think of him as an opponent?
Um, I have a lot more competitions than him. That's really where it's at. I take every guy as a monster when I go in there. That's why I train as hard as I do. That's why I'm so focused on what I have to. That's why I feel every fight I've gotten better. Um, uh, I'm going to go in and show what I am. And that's really all I'm worried about in this. I'm going to unlock and show my full potential out there. Um, and I appreciate him being an opponent that's going to step up to do it. And he's followed through so far all the way, which a lot of my fights, I get last minute switches and things like that. So I, I take him as a game opponent that I'm going to come show that I'm the better fighter.
Now, you just mentioned it, but the experience, how heavy do you think the experience weighs in your favor here? I mean, I think this is only his second or third fight. I don't think he has many fights under his belt.
Yeah, I think this is like his third fight. We might have had some, I don't know. Everyone does smokers and stuff like that, and however they take it when they fight. That's why he's a monster. He's a monster. But when it comes to competitive stages, this is my 21st professional fight. So the experience is there. This is also my fourth bare knuckle fight, and I've got 13 rounds. I got 26 minutes in on my three fights. Most people don't have that, and I don't know. I don't even know. A lot of guys, they only got one or two fights and they're done. They don't even come back to bare knuckle because they're like, I don't like getting punched with bare knuckles. I mean, I've got 26 minutes in there. I've been hit. I have hit. Um, I'm here for this.
What are some of the last minute trainings that you and Weems have been putting in over in California?
Really, everything has been tied together since we worked together 6 weeks ago. We started working different rhythms and patterns back then, along with my homie Warren. I was talking about in Austin. Warren and I have trained, oh man, forever together. So we know each other a lot, and he was my corner in my last fight. So we've all been in the talks, and with guys back in Ohio that hold mitts and stuff for me, and that work with me. Basically have them on the same page as Joshua and Warren, including my wife. My wife is a huge part of it. She helps me with so many things from my business to just getting me to be able to train. Again, like you asked, like, how do you do it? Well, I've my wife and I have worked hard to be able to allow me to train like this and do this. My wife actually will be out here tomorrow. I wanted to have her energy out here, so again, I worked my butt off to make sure I make some extra money to get her out here too. And then yeah, I honestly don't know where I was going with all that, but there it is.
What you been working on, bro? Just that was it.
Yeah.
Hand speed.
Yep. Oh, yeah, exactly. Okay, I remember now. So yeah, I mean, we've been working on hand speed. I mean, that's the biggest thing I've been upping in this is, my hand speed, and obviously we've been working the right combos that we need to do, but making them very simple and very effective. For bare knuckle fighting, like I said, specifically the bare knuckle fighting is it's a new sport, but I feel every time I'm in there, I feel a little more comfortable. This one, I feel free. Again, we talked about, like, look at this, man. Freaking Malibu? Are you kidding me? I never thought I'd be here. I never thought I would see any of these places, man. Let's take that back and word that right. A long time ago, I never thought. But then I realized this a couple years ago through faith, and like Josh and I have been talking about, God has delivered so many things in my life the past couple of years since faith has really driven into my soul. And so many things have been created to come out right in front of me for me to realize, like, everything that I want to pass on to people is a positive energy to whatever it may be to gain a better perception for themselves, to help this world. Like, we all can add to it. My kids are part of that, because if my kids are not by me, they're by other people. If I can somehow make some type of positive, beneficial change to somebody's life that affects my kids when they're not even around me, like, I have the faith that that's going to happen now. So on this fight here, like, I'm going to knock this dude out and show him that I am on a stage that he's not at that level, and I'm just going to show him what level I'm at. Most importantly,
What is the main thing you want your kids to take away from this journey that you're on and that you have been throughout mixed martial arts?
be yourself. Have faith in yourself. I can't say enough about faith in self. Faith in God creates faith in self. These past couple years, to be on the BKFC cards, to be in California, like I said, I've told them, like, take me to other countries. I got my passport. Let's do this. I see that as a reality now. Prior, I mean, when I was 2 years old, 2 years ago, Van, was always just thinking that, like, this is just it. This is just how my life is. My losses on my record, everything. But then realizing at some point, you know what? Like, God has a purpose for me that is to pass some good energy around this world. However, however I do it in my manner, but I feel I do that. I leave my business cards everywhere I go. There's a trail of my business cards and flyers throughout California. Trying to get them all to come out to Temecula to see me fight there at Pechanga casino, like, local support. Whether they get to come out or not, I got those people. Their energies are all attached somehow, and might see them again and again. Like I said, their kids or somebody they know that they make a good day smile towards might end up running across somebody I know that smiles at them. So we can keep passing on the good.
All right, Van. Last question for you, my man. In a perfect world, what goes down when you take on Danny Pettit?
Perfect world, the vision that's been played in my head. I'll go in, I'll control the first, let him know that he's bewildered by, again, my experience out there. And then I'm going to go in the second and really start pressing and get the finish. And get this extra bonus, knockout bonus, you know what I mean? So I can throw some money some of my friends' ways.
Then he's gonna eat his cookies.
Oh, God, don't talk about cookies right now. Oh, my God. You already know, man. We were talking about food the other night. I mean, you came out with us. You saw how I am, and I'm very disciplined on what I do. I've got my salads. I've got my chicken pre-made. I've got my stuff so that way my weight is on. Got my sauna. I mean, big old sauna packed in, like I said, packed in my luggage. So when I get to the room, I'll set it up. I don't gotta go nowhere but my room. I make things as efficient as possible.
Well, Van, I wish you nothing
And
but
man,
the best. And please go get some cookies, get some candy, get some hamburgers, get some In-N-Out after you make weight, man. You deserve it.
Yeah, well, after the fight, after I make weight, there's still a strict regimen of what I eat to get that weight back to where it needs to be, hydrate appropriately. After I get this knockout, man, I'm gonna eat some yummy food. You know what I mean? Oh gosh, I can't wait.
Well, man, can't wait to watch your
And
fight.
thank you, man. It's been an honor to see you again. I know, like I said, we got to meet when Joshua fought for Game Bread, but again, to just you guys be out here and us get to hang out, like that was so cool. Like Josh was like, man, I can't believe this. But to also be at the same event together, that was cool. I mean, the 18,000 people there, how crazy was that?